These are pictures of animals that turn into stones, part 1. Up first is a picture of a gigantic snake that turned into stone.
So if you look here in the corner, you can see that there is a person there in the corner, but there was no one in the house when this picture was taken, other than herself and her daughter.
Well, I'm about to show you a couple maps that actually show all the continents being surrounded by an ice wall.
Our country is being destroyed as you and I sit up here and waste a lot of time on this debate.
I'm back, Sport FITTI to the E, and today we're going to be taking a look at these TikTok videos. The presidential election was last week. I was going to upload a video that day, but I low-key kind of missed it. It was busy. But if you guys like the chain, check the link down in the description. Fit10 for 10% discount. Subscribe to Healing Store for 1% extra discount. Let's just hop into the video.
Story time of the time that I encountered a black-eyed child. If this is the type of content that you're into, feel free to follow along. I post a scary story every single day. And for reference, I did share the story a while back when I had like 2 followers. I figured I would go ahead and reshare it now. This happened when I lived in Georgia. It was late at night. I was up watching a movie when I heard somebody knocking on my door. For whatever reason, my gut instinct told me not to open it. 1, it's creepy for anyone to be coming to my door so late at night. But 2, I just had this gut-wrenching feeling that something was off. I ended up getting up from the couch and I got near the door trying to figure out who was out there, and before I could even open my mouth, the person standing behind the door knew I was standing there and said, "Hi ma'am, I'm just here selling some magazine subscriptions. Can you please let me in?" I was a bit startled at first because how would he even know that I was standing there? I was definitely quiet. So I kind of peeked through the peephole and I saw that it was like a boy about to be maybe 12, 13 years old. He was wearing a hoodie. He was just kind of standing there. I decided to ignore him. He continued to knock on my door and start saying, "Please ma'am, if you would just let me borrow a corner of your table so we can talk about these magazine subscriptions." And I'm just like, no. And he's just knocking and knocking and knocking until he gives up. He turns around and he goes right across where my neighbor lives. I hear when he knocks on her door and she opens it. The minute she opens the door, I hear the boy say whatever it was he was gonna say to her, and all I hear is her scream, say, "Honey," like calling to like her husband, and then she just slams the door shut. Right after that, it was complete silence. I didn't hear anything else. The next morning at like 7 a.m., my neighbor came knocking on my door. I looked out and I saw that it was her, so I opened it and she was freaked out. And she begins to ask me if a boy had been at my door the night before. So I explained to her and I said, yes, somebody knocked on my door and I saw when he knocked on your door. She then goes to tell me that when she opened the door and he started to talk to her, she saw that his eyes were completely blacked out. Like even the white parts were completely blacked out, and she got this gut-wrenching feeling that her first instinct was to yell for her husband, and she slammed the door shut. That was one of the first times that I had ever even heard about the black-eyed kids. And once I did more research, I found out what happens if you open the door. So black-eyed kids bring death. They bring chaos. They bring sickness. They bring loss of money, loss of income, loss of job. They just bring the worst of the worst. Thankfully, she did not allow him into the house, but she did answer the door. So unfortunately, it cost her marriage. Like her and her husband ended up breaking up. It was a horrible divorce. She lost everything. Like everything just horrible. So word of advice, if you ever hear a knock at the door, don't answer it.
Dang, the fact that she lost everything and a husband that she was even calling for when the kid was there, that's crazy. So many losses going on in life, man.
I'm scrolling because this is Earth's Scariest Places Part 62. This spooky looking place above me is the teacher's camp in Baguio City, Philippines. It is undoubtedly one of the most haunted places in the country, and if you stick around, I'll tell you why. But first, a quick history lesson. The teacher's camp was originally built in the early 1900s to act as a vacation home for American teachers stationed in the Philippines. Teachers would come here to relax and blow off some steam and attend trainings and workshops. The facility included dorms, tents, an auditorium for concerts, sports facilities, and conference rooms. Originally built for positive reasons, this place does have a bit of a dark side. One weekend, a group of teachers was staying at one of the cabins and they felt a dark energy come upon them. The sky got dark, it got colder, there was a chill in the air, and it just felt off. After a few minutes of this, they ended up seeing a dark, shadowy figure appear in their cabin. They were terrified. It's rumored that one of the teachers died that night, but no one can prove it. Ever since then, the place has reported so much paranormal activity, including ghostly figures and apparitions and screams in the night. These have even been caught on camera. Today, you can go visit the place for yourself. Would you go?
I don't think I'd go out of my way to go there for fun, if I'm being honest. I feel like if I was trying to make some videos or something, I'd do that, but it looks a little bit off.
This is no ordinary picture. Want to take a guess what's going on here? You can even take a pause and look at this picture really closely. Hi, I'm Stephanie, and if you like folklore, paranormal, or unsolved cases or anything strange, you come to the right place. So to give some context, this user here on Reddit said that his friend's mom took a picture of her daughter wearing some shoes when they noticed something really creepy in the top corner of the picture. So if you look here in the corner, you can see that there is a person there in the corner, but there was no one in the house when this picture was taken other than herself and her daughter. Now here's a picture of Brighton. Someone pointed out that you can even see the legs in this figure. Some people said it was a cat, but I think that's insult to intelligence because that does not look like a cat. So what do you think? Was this a man? Was this a hoax? Is it a ghost? Let me know in the comment section.
Yeah, that is strange. For a second, I was like, yo, that could have been her dad, her uncle, one of her family members, even a brother. Probably is. I wouldn't be surprised. And they might be trying to play it off as just like some creepy person coming into their house or something. That looks way too much like a person and not be a person.
Okay, so I'm about to blow your mind with this video. We all know how many people believe Antarctica is not a continent of ice, but rather a giant ice wall surrounding all the continents of the world. And many people believe that if we cross these ice walls, there would be many other continents that have been kept hidden from us. Well, I'm about to show you a couple maps that actually show all the continents being surrounded by an ice wall. Up first is a map from Gleason's new Standard of the World map. And as you can see, it clearly shows an ice wall surrounding all the continents. This was also published in 1892 and Antarctica was found in 1820, which means they definitely had a better understanding of Antarctica because they literally found it 70 years before this map was published. So the real question is, why is it different today? But that's not even the craziest map. Here is the next map, which was leaked from an unknown source, and it's unbelievable. The ice wall is surrounding the continents and extends out to what looks like a bunch of other continents. And oceans, which means other creatures or humanoids are there that are being hidden from us. Let's say this is real. Why is it being hidden from us? Is it for our safety, or is it being hidden for some other sinister reason? I'm very curious to see what everyone thinks about this, so let me know.
My head hearing ice wall, I'm thinking to myself like, you know, I feel like if we were back in the days where we sailed everywhere, it would make sense. But like, bro, we have planes, we fly places. Like we fly over ice walls. If there was really an ice wall, you would be able to see it from a distance. And plus the earth is round, so if there's an ice wall, does that mean that the earth would be flat? Let me know your thoughts about that in the comments.
So I have a succubus story time. And in case you don't know what a succubus is a female D word that will SA their victim while they sleep. So the story took place back in 2012 in Bakersfield, California. So Ethan had just gotten home from college when he decided to start working on some homework and get ready for bed. He was pretty drained, so the minute he laid down, he was completely passed out. But not for long. He started to have this dream about this very dark being trying to break into his home. It finally broke in, and the minute this thing broke into his home, Ethan jumped out of bed completely startled. He felt this intense ringing in his ear that he could not explain where it was coming from, and the whole room just felt off. He almost felt like he had been drugged. He then realized that he couldn't move, he was completely paralyzed, and he felt the presence of a very dark being at the head of his bed. This thing was holding his arms down, not letting him move, and was trying to like put something in his ear. Can't give any more further details regarding what was going on because TikTok would not like that, but Ethan was in intense pain and kept trying to break free, but no matter what he did, like he couldn't break free. He then started to curse at this thing, but regardless, like the pain just intensified. He then heard this horrific, loud, high-pitched laughing sound coming from this D word. The D word then whispered right next to his ear the word soon. The minute he said that, Ethan was completely free and this thing left his house. Ethan right away jumped out of his bed and turned the lights on, and nothing seemed out of the ordinary in his room aside from the fact that both of his dogs had been right outside of his bedroom door, barking and trying to break into his room to save him. He tried to brush it off as it may have just been a horrible nightmare until he went to the bathroom, turned the lights on, and saw in the mirror that both of his eyes were completely bloodshot. Till this day, Ethan remains terrified of this thing returning, being that it said soon. It has yet to return.
No. Ethan. Yo, that's got to be illegal. No way, dude. She said, I'm coming back. No. Oh, no.
Okay, so we know that the fairy tales Disney movies are based on are way darker than the movies. Like how in The Little Mermaid, Ariel has to stab the prince with a knife that her sisters bought her. But I bet you haven't heard of the Brothers Grimm story that was way too dark for Disney. It's actually not so much a fairy tale as it is just a straight up horror movie. And a reminder that if you have a dark curiosity, you'll love the podcast. So it's called The Juniper Tree, and it's from about 1812. And it starts that once there was a woman who was so desperate to have a baby, once she finally had one, she died of happiness. The boy's father eventually remarries, but he remarries a woman who already has a daughter. And the woman is afraid that the boy is going to take the attention away from her daughter. So one day the woman asks the boy to fetch an apple from a chest, and as he's doing so, she slams the lid down on his head, completely beheading him. And after this happens, she's freaking out. She doesn't want the dad to know what she did. So she ties a ribbon around the boy's neck and props him up. Then she proceeds to tell her daughter to go wake the boy up by pushing him. And the daughter does, but his head falls off when she does it, so now the daughter thinks it's her fault this is happening. And the mom tells the daughter, well, the only thing we can do is turn the boy into a stew. So they turn him into a stew and they serve him to the father that night. The daughter feels so bad that she goes into the back and she buries the bones under a juniper tree. And from where she buried the bones sprouts a bird who flies over and drops a millstone on the stepmother's head, crushing her to death. And then that's just the end of the story. That's how dark it is.
The picture was taken in the 90s, and it's from a phenomenon that is still unexplained to this day. The photo that's seen on the TV is what's come to be known as the Bethany signal. It happened in a small suburban town that was not named, but essentially every single TV turned into this. All went static for a period of 90 seconds before they switched over to this signal. This was the face that was displayed on the screen. Accompanied with this face was the sound of a man's voice that was like heavily breathing and kept saying, "My name is Bethany, and you're gonna die. My name is Bethany, and you're gonna die." Tell me you wouldn't spiral out from that. The eeriest part is that nobody knows who's behind it or how they did it. At face value, it might just seem like a harmless prank, but if so, what is the motive? Why do it?
If I saw that, I'd look at it and be like, what? Probably just instantly turn my TV. I'm like, yeah, nah, this thing's tripping. Psh, turn it off. Go for a walk or something, you know? Get some ice cream, chill.
I have a D-word story time, so I highly suggest that before you listen to the story, you put your headphones on, your AirPods, whatever you use. Just don't have this playing out in the open because you can essentially welcome things that you may not want around. The person who submitted this wants to remain anonymous, so for the sake of the story, let's call her Allie. And just a quick little backstory, Allie grew up with her grandparents. From the time she was 7 years old, she moved in with her grandparents, and they're the ones that raised her. So Allie's grandmother has always been extremely religious. She goes to church all the time. Allie, on the other hand, I mean, she does go from time to time, but hasn't always really been into it. On Allie's 15th birthday at exactly 12 a.m., her friend FaceTimed her and told her that he was gonna stop by and drop off her birthday gift. Mind you, her friend only lived 2 houses down, so he was just gonna walk down and leave it on her porch. But when he got to her house, he was like, "Oh crap, I don't wanna get you in trouble. I see that your grandmother is still awake." Allie's bedroom is right next to her grandparents' room, so she could hear that they were both completely knocked out, like they were even snoring. So she's like, "What are you talking about? My grandmother is sleeping." So then he goes, "Well, is your aunt over? Because I see a lady standing in the living room staring out the window." His heart dropped because she knew that he was telling her the truth, but there was no logical explanation as to who it was. So she asked him, "What does she look like?" He then began to describe her. He said she had long black hair, white pale skin. From that point forward, Allie could not sleep that whole night. She felt extremely uneasy. She kept tossing and turning, like something just did not feel right. She didn't fall asleep till like 5 a.m. And the next day, she actually went out with her mom for her birthday, and she was completely off. She just wasn't herself. Something just felt horribly wrong. That night, she went back to sleep, and at about midnight, she heard a woman call her name. Again, Allie had no way of explaining, but she did not hesitate to get up and then run to her grandmother's room and let her know what was going on. Her grandmother immediately started to pray and told her to spend the night in her room. The very next morning, when her grandmother woke up, she asked Allie to come to church with her. Allie quickly dismissed her and told her that she wasn't interested and went downstairs to go make herself a sandwich. As her grandmother was getting ready for church, Ali then hears a raspy male voice go up to her ear and say her name once again. I mean, she literally has chills just thinking back to that moment. Ali screamed so loud that it sent her grandmother rushing down the stairs, but when her grandmother asked her what was wrong, for whatever reason, she didn't want to tell her. She decided to just brush it off and try to ignore it. Once her grandmother went to church, Ali decided that she was going to get to the bottom of this by making a homemade Ouija board. Now there's going to be a part 2.
A homemade Ouija board? Just to find out answers? Nah. I feel that's a little bit too much for you guys.
Alleged real-life men in black caught on camera with eyewitness account. In 2008, Niagara Falls, New York, Shane Sovar, a hotel manager, and a security guard said they had seen a UFO outside the hotel window. 3 weeks after a UFO investigation team looked into the sighting, 3 witnesses reported that 3 MIB had visited the hotel and terrified the staff, looking for Sovar and the guard, who were not present at the time. The witnesses described them similarly to Hopkins' account. However, the hotel's security footage in the next clip did capture the MIB and is apparently the only known footage of a man in black sighting.
There's a couple of really strange looking men that were here, and they kind of freaked everybody out, and they were asking questions about you. And of course, now I'm getting a little bit nervous, and I'm like, what are you talking about? And he said, well, he goes, I don't know how to describe them except for extremely odd looking. They were the exact same height, they were wearing the exact same clothes, and they had the exact same faces, like they were twins. And he said they were wearing black suits, black trench coats, they were wearing like the old-fashioned federo hats. They had extremely, extremely pale skin. And he said they came in and they asked for you. And I said, I'm sorry, he's actually not working today. And it seemed like they didn't believe me, so they started to walk around the hotel, and shortly after they went to the tour desk. But he goes, they freaked me out, and I really wanted to tell you that there were these weird guys in here looking for you. So, of course, now I'm a little bit skeptical and I'm a little bit freaked out all at the same time. So the first thing I do is I run into my security office and I rewound the cameras. And sure enough, here comes 2 gentlemen through the front door looking exactly how he described. Then the next day, I was talking with my tour desk, and one of them asked to talk to me. She came in my office, the same as my bellman, and she said, I heard that you heard that there were some men looking for you. And she said, they asked a few questions about you, and they said strange things that I didn't understand. And they were talking about governments and conspiracies, and none of it made any sense to me. But she goes, they were very, very scary. She said they had no eyebrows, no eyelashes, nothing. Their hair looked like they had a wig on, like it was attached to their hat, like it wasn't even real. And she said, and the scariest thing, their eyes were so big and so blue that they almost hypnotized me a little bit. And she goes, and you're going to think I'm crazy when I tell you this, but I swear they knew what I was thinking. And she started to cry. And she said one more thing before she left. She said, these men, they didn't blink. Not once did I see them blink.
We took a look at that phone call in one of my last videos, and it is strange because I remember when I saw the video for the first time, they did look pale. And even like looking at that security footage, you can kind of tell like their skin stood out. Well, I'll say if those were the men in black, those were definitely the worst men in black, because now everyone knows that they were there that day in 2008, so... RIP.
These are pictures of animals that turn into stones, part 1. Up first is a picture of a gigantic snake that turned into stone. Just look at how big this thing is, and many people think it's one of the only titanoboas that has been preserved like this. This is just crazy. Next up is a picture of 2 rock formations in the middle of the ocean that look exactly like an elephant and their child. This could just be one big coincidence, but they look just like elephants. Next up is this photo. And this could be proof that giants once roamed Earth. This big rock looks exactly like a human being laying face down, But the only difference is this rock is the size of a mountain, meaning this human being was obviously tall. Next up is a picture of a gigantic footprint, and to compare how big it is, look at the human foot inside of it. This is more proof that giants once roamed Earth. Finally is another example of giants on Earth. Look at this huge human figure just laying down frozen in time. If these pictures are indeed real, I wonder what actually turned everything into stone. What giants on Earth? Look at this huge roamed Earth. Finally is another example of giants on Earth. Look at this huge human figure just laying down frozen in time. If these pictures are indeed real, I wonder what actually turned everything into stone. What in the world had the power to do this, and why did they do it? Let me know your thoughts on all of these photos.
He said, why did they do it? It was obviously Medusa. Duh. Nah, imagine. I don't know, man. Those could be coincidences, but it was like, yo, the one with the mammoth and the child, those both look almost exactly the same. Either someone carved that out, or it was really a mammoth and a child, or its child, or elephant, or whatever. That was a little bit too coincidental, we could say.
Joe, our country is being destroyed as you and I sit up here and waste a lot of time on this debate.
Gentlemen, thanks so much for being here. Let's begin. He challenged me to a golf match. He can't hit a ball 50 yards. Look, I'd be happy to have a driving contest with him. The reason I got my handicap, which when I was vice president, down to a 6. I told you before, I'm happy to play golf if you carry your own bag. Think you can do it? That's the biggest lie. He's a 6 handicap of all. I was an 8 handicap. Yeah. 8. But I have, you know how many... I've seen you swing, I know you swing. I put 3 great Supreme Court justices on the court, and they happened to vote in favor of killing Roe v. Wade. What happened is we brought it back to the states, and the country is now coming together on this issue. It's been a great thing. Thank you. President Biden? It's been a terrible thing. Our veterans are on the street. They're dying because he doesn't care about our veterans. He doesn't like the military at all. I went to the World War II cemetery, World War I cemetery he refused to go to. He was standing with his 4-star general, and he told me, he said, I don't want to go in there because they're a bunch of losers and suckers. And we're closer to World War III than anybody can imagine. We are very, very close to World War III, and he's driving us there. We got to take a look at what I was left when I became president, what Mr. Trump left me. We had an economy that was in free fall. There were no jobs. Unemployment rate rose to 15%. It was terrible. The only jobs he created are for illegal immigrants and bounce-back jobs, a bounce-back from the COVID. He has not done a good job. He's done a poor job, and inflation's killing our country. Can you clarify exactly what it means about you feeling you have every right to go after your political opponents? Well, I said my retribution is going to be success. We're going to make this country successful again, because right now it's a failing nation. But when he talks about a convicted felon, his son is a convicted felon. The idea that you have a right to seek retribution against any American just because you're president is wrong. I doubt whether you'll accept it because you're such a whiner. The idea if you lose again, you accepting anything, you can't stand the loss. Something snapped in you.
There's a part in the interview, I feel like this is like the most viral part that everyone talks about, when Trump was like, when Joe Biden said something and Trump was like, I don't know what he just said. I don't even think he understands what he just said. Yo, that's crazy. I don't know. I feel like right now, I don't have like a specific side, but like, I'm not gonna lie, Joe Biden as president right now is kind of like, bro, I feel like other countries are just looking at us like, bro, because I'm trying to listen to him. Like, I'm not over here trying to be biased, but I would listen to bro. I'm like, yo, what did he just say? You get what I'm saying? I'm like, what did Biden just say? Like, what is he talking about? I don't know. It just makes my brain kind of like tweak a little bit.
The only known photo of smiling Tom. This was reportedly taken in 2018 in Fulton, Missouri. You can probably already tell, but this is a zoomed in picture that was taken from an upstairs window, specifically on Bluff Street. The description from witnesses was this man who seemed to be having some kind of a breakdown on the street in the rain. What was eerie about this was that every witness reported him smiling. But pay very close attention if you think you see something in his hand. And quickly before we dive in, thank you guys so much for all the support as of late. If you're not already, click the link in my bio and go follow on Insta. The report was that the man essentially disappeared down the street into the rain, but he wasn't gone for long. He'd broken into the home of a woman who lived nearby alone, and that resulted in that woman losing her head. Witnesses described this harrowing scene of seeing this man walk down the street with a knife in one hand and her head in his other. Fled before police arrived, but not without witnesses catching a glimpse to give a police sketch. The entirety of being seen, he continued to smile.
Oh yeah, that guy for sure had some mental problems. How you gonna just walk down? He said walk with her head just smiling, just happy, just like, yes, I do this. Weird, bro.
Unhappy people will always be jealous of you over things that you have absolutely no control over, which is why you should always stay on high alert and make sure that you're always protected. I'm not saying to not make new friends, but whenever you make those new friends, make sure that you are on high alert. Story time. This story was submitted by Nohemi. I went ahead and tagged her down below. So Nohemi had moved into a new town with her now husband, where she knew absolutely no one. She was excited when she found that she had made a new friend, and they quickly became close. They would hang out together, go out for coffee while the kids were at school, or go over each other's houses. Nohemi found herself sharing her life with this new friend, and her new friend also sharing her life with Nohemi. Now, Nohemi has always been extremely happy with her marriage. Her and her husband has always had a wonderful relationship, and she doesn't know if maybe she came off as bragging because her husband has always been a good man to her. She quickly found out that her friend was starting to become a bit envious. Her marriage was actually extremely toxic. It was almost like she wanted everything that Nohemi had. If Nohemi would buy a new blender, her new friend would get a blender. If she would get new curtains, her new friend would get new curtains. If she would change the color scheme of her house, her new friend would do the same. A few months go by and Nohemi realizes that a lot of things in her house are breaking down. She's getting into a lot of arguments with her husband, and it's almost like her marriage is going downhill. She can feel the envy coming from her friend to a point that she starts dreaming about her friend. She's now smelling herbs and candles that she's never smelled before. One night she woke up and decided that she needed to pray. Something in her was telling her that she needed to pray over her home. So Nohemi grabs her Bible and her anointing oil and begins to pray. And out of nowhere, she finds herself rebuking the name of this friend. She then says out loud that no evil will come through her front door, that the evil stops right there, that whoever is wishing things against her and her family will no longer enter the home. After that night, it was almost as if her friend fell off the face of this earth because she never heard from her again. Her friend never came around again. And now Nohemi's family, her husband, her relationship, her home has all gone back to normal.
There's a famous line that I kind of live by Drake. He said, "I've been losing friends and finding peace." And if you ask me, facts.
This girl was found frozen in ice after 6 hours, but what happened next shocked everyone and left doctors speechless. Jean Hillard was driving home during a blizzard in Minnesota when her car skidded into a ditch. Her friend lived nearby, so she started walking. It was negative 30 degrees Fahrenheit outside and the wind was blowing into her face. She reached her friend's driveway but just couldn't go any further, and just 15 feet from his door she collapsed on the ground. She was in the snow for 6 hours and turned into a human icicle. Her friend came out and saw her like this, frozen and ghost-like. At the hospital, she was so frozen doctors couldn't even open her mouth to put a thermometer. Her skin was so hard that a needle broke when they tried to put it in her. The doctors then decided to put warm packs of water around her body. And in just 6 hours with no amputations and no brain damage, she was conscious and speaking with her family.
My mom and I were traveling to New Mexico when I realized that we forgot to gas up. We ended up stopping at a gas station in the middle of nowhere. Once we had added gas to the car, we realized that the car would not start. My mom and I just sat there trying to figure out what to do next, since the attendant at the gas station had stated that everything was closed on Sunday. Out of nowhere, we see this tall, handsome Native American man approach us. He said absolutely nothing, walked up to the hood, motioned for us to open it. He did something down there and then told us to start up the car. The minute he said this, the car started up. We were so grateful. We thanked him. My mom even tried to give him some money, but he declined. My mom then told me to force him to take the money. So she went to hand it to me. I looked away from him for 1 second. The minute I looked back, he was gone. There was nowhere for him to hide. There was nothing but dirt roads all around us. We even went up to the gas station attendant to ask if he had seen where he went. He says he never saw anyone out there with us. We were bewildered, to say the least. My mom to this day states that that must have been a guardian angel.
I mean, I'd hope so. I like how she said her mom tried to force her to give him the money. That's really how some people are. I know a lot of people like that. If you're someone like that, put it down in the comments.
Something from outer space crashed in the Arctic and it's traveling to the core of this plane. Okay. So back in '94, this meteor crashed and made a lake about a quarter-mile wide. Okay. It has been progressively getting deeper and deeper. It was like quarter-mile deep and like a half-mile deep, and by this point, it's about 9 miles deep already.
In 28 years?
Divers, when they try to go down to the bottom and see what's going on, they get these weird feelings of like dread. They feel sick, so that they come back up. And they've tried sending probes down, but the live feed starts messing up as it gets deeper, and then if they try to push it, it starts to burn out everything. The divers that have gone down there, they say that they see this weird spiraling green light that's down at the bottom.
What's crazy is that this isn't like a theory.
No, this is
like a real thing.
These
that
are
is
like
documented
from like someone with a doctorate that has gone and like researched this stuff.
That's actually crazy.
So, like, what could it be?
I have no idea what it could be.
neither do they. That is the part that freaks me out the most.
Yeah.
If they can't explain it.
Yeah, I can honestly see why a lot of people have this fear of the ocean, because when you really go, if you're a diver or someone that's on the ocean a lot, you really have no idea what's beneath you. 1 second it could be a fish, shark, dolphin, or it could be a freaking megalodon ready to chew your whole boat apart.
So I'm actually supposed to be getting ready for work, and here I am in my basement making a video because I heard some noises coming from down here, and it always happens when I'm home alone. So my mom is extremely sensitive just like me, and she mentioned how she felt like there was a male spirit hiding in my basement. So here we are. We're gonna try the AI filter, and I'm gonna see if I can find him. Again, I feel like there's a presence here already. I don't care to communicate, but I'm gonna see if I can pick him up in the AI filter. I have since nicely asked them to leave, so let's see if we pick anything up again. All gone. So moral of the story, if you feel something, just ask them to leave. 9 times out of 10,
That's if they're a friendly spirit and not a freaking demon. Imagine it's just the devil, and you're just like, hey, can you please leave? Bro's just like, what if? And you're just like, this is my house. They're like, I don't care, I'm coming to kill you. Gotta be careful.
3 conspiracy theories you may have never heard of. Part 5. The flag moving in the wind. No stars in the sky whatsoever. The misaligned shadows, these have all been points made in the conspiracy theory. For years, conspiracists have argued that NASA staged the landing and that the secret has been protected by the CIA ever since. One of the strangest responses to the disaster was evidence being shown online of the snow being fake. Videos appeared all over the internet allegedly showing the snow being put under tests to prove it was fake. Theorists claim that the snow was government generated as part of a sinister plot instigated by shadowy elites. Queen Elizabeth I was a man. The theory goes that Queen Elizabeth died as a child, and to prevent the end of the royal line, she was replaced with a young boy. This theory is said to explain why the ruler remained chaste throughout her reign.
I remember seeing those fake snow TikToks. I was just like, interesting. It's kind of weird because snow does not burn like that. So it was kind of weird to see that. But apparently I heard Queen Elizabeth I didn't even like freak anyone. Like she was just so like away from all that activity. She didn't have any reign left, any offspring. At least I think it was Queen Elizabeth I. If I'm wrong, let me know down in the comments.
On the night of January 16th, 1984, 9-year-old Annie Swartz woke up suddenly to the sound of voices coming from somewhere outside of her door. When she got out of bed and walked into the hallway, she realized those voices were coming from downstairs, and they weren't people talking, they were people screaming at each other. However, just as quickly as the yelling started, it stopped, and the house went quiet. Annie was still curious what was going on, so she tiptoed her way down the stairs, but when she got to the bottom, she didn't see anyone and the house was still quiet. Then, from somewhere outside the house, she heard a sound. When she turned around to see what it was, what she saw scared her so badly that she instantly sprinted back upstairs, leapt into her bed, and pulled the covers up over her head. Annie would eventually fall asleep after convincing herself that what she had seen was just a bad dream. But, as she would learn the next morning, that was no dream, and her real-life nightmare was only just beginning.
Here's some of the scariest unknown creatures caught on camera. Part 7. The creature covered in this video was caught on a surveillance camera on May 21st, 2022 outside the Amarillo Zoo. At around 1:26 a.m., the surveillance camera, which is motion activated, notified the zoo officials that movement was detected. Attached to the notification was an image. Unfortunately, the camera in question only takes snapshots when activated, so no video footage was captured of the creature. However, this image was enough to get the attention of the city officials, who posted the image on their official Twitter account asking for the public's opinion on what it could be. They listed a few ideas themselves, stating it could be a strange person in a hat or the infamous chupacabra. Many gave their thoughts, but none were ever confirmed. Luckily, no animals or people were injured and no signs of a disturbance was found within the zoo walls. But the question still remains, who or what was captured that morning?
I don't know, I was looking at that image, I was thinking to myself, honestly, it might just be like an animal just standing up for like a split second. Like I could see it being like maybe a bigger fox, a wolf, or a coyote. But at the same time, I'm not too sure. I doubt it was the chupacabra or whatever the freak they're talking about. Because if it really was the chupacabra, I feel like it would have eliminated a lot of animals. A lot of animals would have been slaughtered. And if I'm being honest, I don't know, it just looked a little bit puny.
Truckers spot a hitchhiking ghost. At 2 a.m., a truck driver named William Church was driving along Arizona's Route 87 when he spotted something unusual. William said he saw someone or something standing in the road, then noticed a bright glare in his dash camera. William said there were no other cars around and believes if you look closely, the ghostly figure appears to be walking. The haunting dash footage was released and the internet is divided. Some say it's a ghost, others say it's something else like a glare or a tumbleweed. Those siding with this being supernatural noted that a fatal accident took place less than a mile from the recorded figure, and many others have claimed to have witnessed paranormal activity in that very same area. Ooh, that's spooky. What do you think it is?
Do you know that the hours between 3 a.m. and 5 a.m. are known as witching hour? This is when the paranormal world is at its highest, and even if you're not sensitive, you're bound to have some type of experience. These are the times where it's recommended for you to be in high alert and always remain protected. But of course, do I ever listen? No. So story time. When I used to work night shift at the hospital, there were nights where I would get out at 3 a.m. Now this was before COVID, so a lot of the stores were open 24/7. So on the nights that I would get out at 3 a.m., they were my favorite time to go grocery shopping. I would always hit up Walmart and it was a dream because there was never anyone there. So 3 a.m. I pull up to the parking lot and I realize that there's no other cars there. It's just me. I pull up, I'm getting out. As I'm walking towards the front door, these three ladies just pop up out of nowhere. My first thought was, that's odd. There were no other cars here, but at the same time, they could have walked. As we make our way to the store, I walk in and I can see them in the light now. And I look at them and I realize that they literally look like they just crawled out of a sewer. And that's not me being judgy, like they literally looked and smelled like they just crawled out of a sewer. But I'm like, not my business. I came here to get what I needed to get and to get home. So as I'm walking through the aisles, I realize that these ladies are now following me. If not one, but all three. Every aisle I go to, I'm running into them constantly. At first, I think that it's probably just a coincidence, but I'm hitting different aisles. I'm going from like the shoe aisle to the makeup aisle to like the dog food aisle. Like I'm jumping around and everywhere I turn, I'm running into these ladies. Now I'm getting all types of bad feelings from these girls, but at the same time, I'm not thinking of a spiritual sense. I'm thinking of like a human trafficking sense. So I'm on high alert and I'm like, I shouldn't have stopped here at 3 a.m. So I try to like hurry up and these girls are like laughing and just following me everywhere. I try to rationalize it and just be like, maybe I'm just being paranoid, I'm tired, I'm sleep deprived, I'm gonna give them one more chance. So I kind of turn around and end up in the pajama section where I feel like I've lost them. As I'm kind of like digging through the racks, I look over and I see the girl walking this way and she says to the other girl, there she is. So I'm like, great. It's not in my head, like they really are following me. At this point, I decide to go to the front and try to get the attention of one of the workers. But when I get to the front, there's absolutely no one at any of the registers. And I know Walmart is notorious for not having people behind the register, but there's literally not even one person anywhere. So as I'm standing there, the one girl kind of comes up from behind me and says, Tatiana, oh Tatiana. She knew my name. At that point, it hit me. These things are not from this world. These things are the words. They happen to be lingering around in the parking lot. When they saw me coming in by myself, they decided to follow me in to see if they can attach themselves to me. I dropped everything that was in my hands and I ran to my car. The whole time I'm hearing like whispering and like weird noises coming from behind me. Like I'm getting chills, like just thinking about it now. But as I look back, there's no one there, but I'm hearing the whispering and all this stuff. And I run to my car. I practically like hit the gas to go all the way home. I kept thinking I was gonna see them like in my back seat. I get home and I'm like praying every prayer. Like I didn't sleep the rest of that night. Like I didn't sleep. I was like wide awake the whole night because I was freaking out. So these are things that are always lingering around. Mind you, it was 3 a.m. I'm by myself. They saw me as an easy target. Thankfully, they weren't able to hitch a ride with me, but it's so easy, especially if you're under the influence and if you're outside, you're extremely vulnerable. You have no idea what's out there just lurking.
Okay, so she said 3 a.m. to 5 a.m. I'm thinking about it like, all right, I'm in New York right now, you know what I'm saying? 3 a.m., 5 a.m. So you tell me if I'm in Vegas and it's like 11 p.m., the spirits would come attack me, or is that just local to the time region? Okay, I don't know.
Can you tell a place has a dark history just from looking at it? I'm gonna show you a listing and we're gonna see. Also, this is a series, so follow along. This is the Watts family home in Colorado, where Chris and Shanann Watts lived with their 2 children. Chris Watts is a family annihilator who took the life of his pregnant wife and 2 daughters in 2018. And despite all that, this house actually recently sold. But in the listing that was posted, you can actually see areas that were featured in the police cam footage during the investigation. Because when the crime first happened, Chris pretended he had no idea what happened to his family. But you can see in a lot of this footage, he's acting so suspiciously. So much so that one of his neighbors actually tipped off to police that he thought something was just not right with Chris. We still don't know from Chris exactly why this happened, but we can infer that he wanted to start over a new life with his mistress. Chris is currently in jail, but a new family now lives inside that home. Would you be willing to live in a home like this?
Hell yeah, I better get some discounts though. What? Someone got what in here? Oh yeah, I'm getting some discounts. I'm not staying in here for nothing less. That is a nice home though, I'm not gonna lie. I don't know how much it goes for in Colorado, but
I really don't think I'm ever gonna be able to escape this shit. Listen to it. Listen to that pounding. Jesus. I mean, this is my whole closet right here. This is my kitchen. And here we go with this shit again. I'm just gonna wait and see how long it goes on, because I never not stop. Okay, that works. Okay, so it seems to be wanting to happen now more in the afternoon, but just to prove that there's nothing there. Jesus Christ. This is the cord in question, the coax cable, and you can see here it goes directly from here down to my Wi-Fi. So I could, I guess, open it like this, but one, I would probably be in the way of the camera here since I'm standing here, but let's try and test this. Here's the door latched all the way shut. I mean, I'm pulling on that pretty hard and it doesn't come out, but if I were to do this and open it, that just kind of pulls the Wi-Fi back. So, I mean, if this cord was the thing that was pulling it, this probably would have knocked off, but I don't know. Yes, absolutely we can, because I think everyone is obsessed with this and the fact that I do not have it secured. But as you can see, this goes to my modem, and that is all. It's an old building, so in front of every apartment, they've had to drill holes and then feed these in through, you know, all this to kind of update it. But this building was built in 1932, and if you can't tell, hasn't really been updated too much since 1932. Oh. You gotta be kidding me.
5 of the most haunted places in the world. Part 1. Raynham Hall, Norfolk. The mysterious brown lady, rumored to be Lady Dorothy Walpole, was reported to be one of Raynham Hall's apparitions captured on film in the December 1936. Poveglia, Venice, Italy. Island of Poveglia was once a quarantine zone for people suffering from the plague. In addition, the island was used as a psychiatric hospital in the early 20th century. Ghost hunters claim this spot is now a hotbed of paranormal activity. Bongar Fort, India. This abandoned fortress sticks out in the middle of the wilderness. Legend has it that a sorcerer cast a curse on the area after being rejected by a local princess. Port Arthur, Australia. The spot originally served as a penal colony in the 19th century, where prisoners were forced to induce solitary confinement and mandatory church services to correct bad behavior. Burg Wolfseck, Germany. This 800-year-old castle in the municipality of Wolfseck, Germany, is apparently haunted by a woman who scares off any visitors who pass. She is rumored to be the ghost of Clara von Helfenstein, who was reportedly murdered by her jealous husband.
In the mood for a scary story. Before buying their new home, a couple learned that the previous owner had passed away in the middle of the living room. They decided to go forward with the move, and almost immediately upon moving into the home, their young daughter started talking about seeing ghosts. The girl would tell her parents that the ghost was in her playhouse, or the ghost was standing in the corner of the room. She didn't seem afraid at all, and she was young, so her parents brushed it off. Until one day, the daughter told her parents that the ghost was on the back deck and said that it was his birthday, and asked her parents to sing happy birthday to him. So they went along with it and nicely sang happy birthday to make their daughter happy. Later that day, the couple, out of curiosity, looked up the obituary of the last owner, and they were stunned as they read that it was his birthday. Kids always know.
Yeah, that is weird, but my question I'm thinking is, like, would you guys ever buy a house that someone has already died in? Like, I'm not talking about died a couple years ago. I'm talking about, like, the previous owner before you bought the property. Someone in their family or someone, or even them, died before, like, died in the property before they sold it to you. Would you buy that house? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments.
Can you tell a house is haunted just by looking at it? Today we're going through the Zillow listing of the real Conjuring house, and we're gonna see. This is an 18th century farmhouse in Rhode Island, and it was owned by the Perrin family in the 70s. When they first moved in, the mom would notice that her broom would move on its own, and things around the house would mysteriously be out of place. But things in the house quickly got way worse. The kids noticed a smell of rotten eggs everywhere, and every morning at 5:15 their beds would shake. They realized they were being haunted by the ghost of a woman who died on the property in the 1800s named Bathsheba. She was reportedly practicing witchcraft in the house. It's believed that she killed a child during a satanic ritual by sticking a needle into its head. Then we all know the story of Ed and Lorraine Warren coming to the house and getting rid of Bathsheba. But according to people who have lived in this house and visited this house, there's still definitely something haunting the place. Would you ever stay in this house?
Yeah, I've actually like seen a lot of things about the Conjuring house, and the Conjuring house is not too far from me. I was thinking about making a vlog there, but it's like, I don't really know all the details about that one.
Did you ever ask for information they said we can't tell you?
No, but I will tell you that there were times where I asked for information and then it came slower than I wanted. Prying information out of the bowels of an agency can be challenging.
UFOs? Any UFOs? Did you ask about that?
Certainly asked about it.
And?
Can't tell you. Sorry.
Okay.
Can
UFOs.
I say it used to be that UFOs was the, and what is it, Roswell was the biggest conspiracy?
Yeah.
And now that seems so tame, right?
Right.
The idea that the government might have an alien spaceship.
This man talking about, oh yeah, it seems like the UFOs used to be so tame. How that used to be so back in the day. Bro, trust me when I say this man knows UFOs exist. And they do, because the government has literally said that last year. It is what it is, bro. But I think there might be something even bigger that they're not telling us. But it is what it is. It's funny because even the president doesn't even know too much. Like, so who knows everything? Is there even a person in the government that quote unquote knows everything? I'm not too sure.
Scariest videos on the internet? Part I don't know. This man heard something weird coming down from his basement, so he decided to go investigate. Check out what he found.
Nah, that was creepy. Could not imagine being that guy and just seeing that. I'm hoping that's fake, because if that's real, I would never work there again.
If you're ever walking down the street or at a random place and out of nowhere run into a loved one that is now gesturing you to follow them, just blindly, I would definitely question it. It may actually be a D word taking the form of your loved one in order to get you alone. Story time, this person wants to be anonymous, so let's call her Lila. When Lila was about 11 years old, she was living in Malaysia with her family. They lived in an apartment building on the 12th floor. One day, she's walking home from school when she happens to look across the street and sees a woman standing there that looks just like her mother. The woman smiles at her and starts gesturing for her to follow her. Just as Lila is getting ready to cross the street, her brother stops her and goes, "Where are you going? We're supposed to be walking home. Home is this way." Lila then responds with, "Don't you see Mom? She's standing over there telling us to follow her." Her brother then goes, "What do you mean? There is no one over there." Lila decided to brush off the experience and go home and act as if nothing had happened. Until a couple weeks later, she's sleeping in her room when she gets woken up by someone tapping on her leg. When she opens her eyes, she looks up and sees this creepy old lady standing there wearing her mom's clothes. This creepy old lady then starts to tell Lila to follow her out into the balcony. Now mind you, her family lived on the 12th floor. Lila of course screams and wakes up her whole family. They all run in there and this creepy old lady is nowhere to be found. They automatically assume that she must have had a nightmare and decided to brush it off once again. Until one night, Lila's mom wakes up to Lila sleepwalking towards the balcony. When her mom shook her awake, Lila told her that her mom had been the one that had been holding her hand, walking her towards the balcony. This is impossible due to the fact that her mom had been asleep the whole time. This really started to scare Lila's mom, so she decided to take Lila to the temple so they could pray over her. Just a few days later, Lila wakes up screaming at the top of her lungs. She keeps saying that she sees the creepy old lady right outside of her window, dressed in her mom's clothes, telling her to come outside. Now, once again, they lived on the 12th floor, so there was no humanly possible way that a human could be just floating on the 12th floor. At that point, Lila ended up going back to the temple where they did a full cleansing and came to the home and they spread holy water all over it, just really clearing out any type of negativity or just negative energy that could have been left by this creepy old lady. The temple then told her mom that this creepy old lady that she had continued to encounter over and over again was actually a D word that took the form of a human in order to capture their victim. From that point forward, Lila's mom had 5 golden rules to follow to prevent anything like that from ever happening again. Let me know if you guys are interested in hearing them. I mean, these are 5 things that I've never personally heard of, but they're very true to Lila's heart and her culture.
This is one of the most compelling cases for time travel that I've ever seen. So back in the 50s, this guy flew into an airport in Japan, and he was like a normal looking guy, middle-aged, white, dark hair, and he was going through the lines, and the passport checker was looking at it. He kind of looked at it, looked up, and he was like, "Where are you from?" He said, "The Kingdom of Turid." The guy's like, "I've never heard of that." But, I mean, there's hundreds of countries. They asked him into his little back room, and they're like, "Can you point this out on a map?" He's like, "Of course." And he points, and it's right in between Spain and France, and there is a country there. It's called Andorra. He's like, "I've never heard of Andorra." And they're like, "Turid doesn't exist." And he's like, "The Kingdom of Turid has been around for over 1,000 years." And when they're looking at this passport, it has stamps in it. It all looks legit. His money, he has currency from different countries, including Turid, that looks like real money. And his checkbook is from a bank that doesn't even exist. They're talking to him. They're like, "Where are you staying? We need to verify this." And so he tells them about how he was just on the phone with them this morning, and they call. They have no record of him ever calling.
At the end right there, they were like, this story draws an urban legend, so was that fake? Does that mean that guy was actually not a time traveler and was just all just a setup?
At first glance, Whitewater, Wisconsin seems to be your typical small Midwestern college town. But if you dig a bit deeper, you'll realize it's anything but. It's been dubbed the Second Salem, and the town of Whitewater is shrouded in a dark, eerie history. It's teeming with stories of witches, ghostly apparitions, curses, and unexplainable supernatural events. The notoriously haunted town has long attracted lore and legends. Some mysterious, others downright spine-chilling. Whitewater is a town with many dark secrets. I'm Avery Ross, and this is Avery After Dark. Welcome back to the show. You're in for a real treat with today's episode. First up, we're talking about a hauntingly spooky little town in Wisconsin, because let's be real, a story about a haunted house? Amazing. But a story about an entire haunted town? Come on now. Fascinating. There's something about those certain parts of the world that we live in that just seem to attract ghostly activity like a magnet. They become legendary. And after that, we have a chilling story of one Hawaiian police officer's encounter with the paranormal. As she was out on patrol alone one evening, something happened that she will never forget. You all asked for more ghost stories, so I'm giving them to you. And that's what you get for running around a cemetery at night. A girl recalled a chilling experience she had one evening and said, "We were driving my friend's really old Subaru through a massive graveyard. We stopped and walked down a hill and came across a little pond, and there was someone sitting on a rock on the other side of the pond. We couldn't make out any features other than the fact it looked like it was a man who was wearing some old-style top hat. We stupidly waved and shouted, 'Hi!' He didn't show any acknowledgement and continued sitting on the rock. All of a sudden, he jumped to his feet, started running towards us on the water, and then vanished. My friends and I screamed and ran back to the car. But when we got there, the car wouldn't start, and then, every few seconds, we'd start to hear loud bangs coming from the back of the car. It was dark, we couldn't see anybody, but felt like someone was behind us. None of us had any cell service, and the next 30 minutes were spent trying to get our car started. Finally, she got the car started and hit the pedal to the metal. We sped out of the graveyard so fast. Immediately after crossing the gates, all of our phones regained cell service. I was terrified, and one thing I know for certain is that someone or something out there was not animal or human." Ever had anything spooky happen to you in a graveyard?
Yeah, I never had anything spooky happen to me in a graveyard because I just don't go to graveyards for no reason, you know? But if I'm being honest, getting stuck anywhere uncomfortable with no cell service is the worst possible situation you could be in.
This is maybe the scariest urban legend I've ever heard, and it ended up being true. Back in the 1970s, there was this terrifying fun house in Long Beach, California called the Laugh in the Dark. And there was always this urban legend that all the mannequins inside were fake, except for one. Also, mind you, this is what this week's episode is about, so if you don't want spoilers, just listen to the episode. This urban legend came to be because there was one mannequin inside that just looked wrong. All of the other ones looked fake, but this one in particular looked way too human. And a bunch of the kids also said the area that the mannequin was in just smelled really, really bad. So a few years go by, and one day a film crew comes in and is using Laugh in the Dark for a film set. The director's lining up a shot, and he just doesn't like the way this one mannequin looks in frame. So he goes over to a crew member and he's like, "Hey, can you just move this out of the shot?" So the crew member goes over and starts moving the mannequin when its arm pops off. And inside of the mannequin's arm is human bone. The kids had been totally right. The mannequin was a mummified body. There's so much more to this story, like who the person was and how they got there, and I talk about the whole thing this week on the episode.
It was really giving Five Nights at Freddy's vibes. Have you guys ever played or even seen Five Nights at Freddy's? It's such a weird movie where the animatronics like go around just hurting kids. Yeah, weird. It was just giving me that vibes. I don't know why. Have you guys ever seen Five Nights at Freddy's? Put it down in the comments.
This ghostly footage will blow your mind. A Bangkok Airways pilot sat in his aircraft and filmed what looks like dozens of people exiting a plane. Passengers are seen towing their luggage through a connecting bridge, except this jet bridge was empty. It wasn't connected to a plane, leaving viewers completely baffled as to where the ghostly passengers were coming from. The footage is chilling, and hauntingly, the figures appear to be floating, not walking. The pilot posted the video online, and it sparked a debate. Some say this is just an optical illusion. Others believe these figures are ghosts, spirits caught on film. So ghosts or an optical illusion? What do we think?
I'm not gonna lie, I could definitely see it being an optical illusion. I was looking at it, I was like, if there's like reflections, because you know it's really late at night, so I was like, if there's like a reflection from maybe where the guy's recording and it kind of reflects onto that, it could show like there's people moving. But I'm not too sure, but I doubt it was some paranormal activity. I feel like it was an optical illusion. Let me know your thoughts about that also down in the comments.
I'm about to show you the scariest video on the internet, and here's why. This boy stole his mom's phone and decided to record. What he captured was his deceased grandmother. This lady is not real. That motherfucker is not real. Check it out.
Hell no. That's your... How... That looked way too real. She said this is not real. That looked way too real. There's no way that's fake.
I have a picture that I want to show you guys. But first, I want to give you a little backstory before I show you what's going on back there. The person who owns this picture claims to have purchased a new CCTV camera that they placed in their bedroom. They placed the camera right next to their bed that night and left it there charging and left the night to go out with friends. While he was out with friends having a couple drinks, he received a message letting him know that there was some movement that was captured on the camera. This camera is meant to automatically take a series of photos the minute it captures any type of movement. So when he reviewed the photos, he was shocked at what he saw. Now I'm gonna show you guys. So what he sees is this shadowy type figure just right in front of his bed. He ended up brightening up the photos to try to get a closer look and could clearly see that it was an emaciated man just standing there, just eerily staring straight ahead. He ended up doing some digging into the history of his home and found out that where his home was built, underneath it, there used to be a ton of tunnels where monks used to travel to and from locations in order to escape the siege. Whatever the case may be, I mean, if I'm out and I get notifications on my phone letting me know that there's movement and I look at my phone and I see this, like, I'm not coming home.
Well, I don't blame her. I would not go home either, but except I live at home, so, you know, I gotta go home. So I'd probably just come home, you know, just check the area out, scope it out, just be like, all right, what's going on? All right, we safe? Okay, good. Pretty much it. If there's someone here, then it's looking like it's gonna be a bad day for them, buddy. Bad day.
This is a true horrifying story. Part 78. This story took place in Tilburg, Netherlands in the year 2020. Ibrahim, a man that was 23 years old back in 2020. Ibrahim is originally Iraqi, but he was born and raised in Netherlands. One night, Ibrahim got a call from his ex-girlfriend, a Dutch girl that he hasn't seen in over 2 years. She told him she wanted to hang out, and she asked if she can come over, and he said yes. When she arrived, Ibrahim and this girl go to the bedroom and they do the dirty. After they were done, she took her things and she left. This is a crucial point in Islam. When you do the dirty with a girl, even if you've done it the halal way with your wife, there is something you must do afterwards called the ghusl. The ghusl is known as a washing or cleansing procedure. If you did not perform the ghusl after finishing what you did, you are not permitted to pray or even touch the Quran. Your body will be considered najis. And when you are najis, you are more prone to jinn possessions and you will attract jinns to your household. After this girl left, Ibrahim did not shower, he did not clean himself, he went straight to bed. As he was falling asleep, his body went through sleep paralysis. He figured it could have been a normal paralysis cycle, but this one in particular is not normal at all. Ibrahim was fully aware of his surroundings as this was happening. He felt that his mattress was slowly being lifted up in the air, and then he felt something pushing him deep into the mattress. Right then, he knew that this was a Jathum. In intense fear, this was happening for 5 minutes straight. He started to recite Ayatul Kursi, and as he was reciting, he saw a face that he was not able to describe to me. He cannot even draw it down. That face was something sinister. He felt that even the Quran recitation was not helping. This is how crucial your ghusl is in Islam. Moments later, the mattress falls down in its place and Ibrahim was able to move. He was crying heavily as he was running out of his home. He gets in his car and he quickly drives to his mother's house. For days straight, Ibrahim was crying from this trauma. He was not able to eat, he was not able to sleep. And the day he went back to his place, he felt the presence of that sinister being even days after he was gone.
All of that just because he slept with his ex-girlfriend? Isn't that an ex-girlfriend? So that's... Wait. I feel like he's... Wait. If that's an ex-girlfriend, doesn't that mean that they've done that before? Does that mean every single time they've done that he just took a shower right after? I feel like that's a little bit extreme. I'm not gonna lie. A little bit extreme.
Now this footage is spooky. A guy named Oliver was preparing to have some friends over to his house. They were planning to spend the night in his basement, so he took a video to send out to the group beforehand. In the video, he shows the area they will be staying that night, but what he captured down there will leave you spooked. As he enters the back part of the basement, he sees a dark, shadowy figure standing there, and then it seems to disappear. What's especially chilling about this figure looks like the Hatman. The Hatman is a ghost-like entity that appears as a shadow figure, often described as wearing a dark coat and a hat. And countless people have reported seeing him. But what do you believe? Do you think he caught the Hatman on camera?
Do you have chills yet? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, that Hatman could have been anybody, bro. It could have been someone just breaking in, honestly. Oh, a lot of these videos, you just got to be careful, man. I be seeing so many people just in these people's houses. You're just like, what? How the hell did this dude get in my house? Or it could be paranormal activity, but I don't think that one's any better than the first one.
My husband and I were chased by something in the woods of...
Okay, so if you really don't want to sleep tonight, let me tell you about the thing that lives in the Appalachian woods. And if you like this stuff, I have a whole episode on it. Generations ago in northern Appalachia, there was this one community that all let their children be babysat by this one woman named Mother Tabitha. This community was really cut off from the rest of the world, and they didn't realize that they had a higher child mortality rate than was normal at the time. So one day, an older brother ran to Mother Tabitha's house to go pick up his little brother. When he gets there, he looks in through the window and he sees that Mother Tabitha is doing this really strange dance, and all of the kids are totally bewitched by it. And next to her dancing is this creature that has a caribou for a head. It's got like the body of a human, but a caribou head. This child freaks out and runs to tell the adults, who all go to Mother Tabitha's house. And when they get there, they also realize that another child has died under Tabitha's care that day. Remember, this is an Appalachian community. They know that there's witches that live in the woods, so the parents all freak out and chase Tabitha out. As she's running away, her dress flaps, and they can see that underneath her dress, there's a ton of bones. Really small ones, like child-sized bones. And this is because Tabitha wasn't human. She was a monster that lived in the woods, and the caribou-headed creature was the devil. What she had been doing was killing the children in her care, allowing the parents to bury the child, and then digging it up and eating it. And she escaped into the woods, and people think she's still out there, so stay safe.
These are videos humans were never meant to see. Okay, so we all know about the Columbine high school shooting. It was the first school shooting, and it's the most famous one. But have you ever wondered what the school looks like 20 years later? Well, if so, I'm about to show you a video of Columbine High School, current day, and it's absolutely unsettling knowing what happened there 20 years earlier.
I believe Eric parked somewhere here, and Dylan parked on the opposite side of the building, and let's walk this way. Oh yeah? Nice. Library was right up here. They tore it down though. Now, they went up these stairs, but they rebuilt all of this. All of this shit was not here when it happened, but there was still a set of stairs that came up here. Came up here, shot Rachel Scott and that other guy, Richard Casaldo, I think his name is. I think they're sitting over here somewhere. Nope. So yeah, so I think they did that shit by the cafeteria, came up here, and entered the school through this way, and then went to the library from the second floor. I think, I don't know. This is new. This wasn't here. This is a new library. Beautiful view.
I did not know Columbine was actually the first school shooting. That's insane. Those guys literally started a trend that lasted decades. That's so freaking messed up, man. I'm not gonna lie, bro. I was looking at it like, if them boys were still alive, they'd be 40-something years old right now. Yo, that is crazy, dude.
Yo, what's up? Here's some scary facts about our world that you probably didn't want to know. Part 45. Egyptian mummies would still be considered one of the rarest artifacts to find up to date, if medieval Europeans hadn't consumed a majority of the dead mummies' bodies, because they believed back then that if you consumed embalmed dead bodies, that it would actually heal your ailments. Please do not try this next one, but it is actually possible that you can convince somebody who has no history of mental illness in their family that they have a severe mental illness in roughly only a week. Please do not try to convince your brother that he has schizophrenia. That would not be a good idea, and it would not end up well. Throughout the filming of The Exorcist, you hear the possessed girl let out multiple demonic screams, but little did you know that those screams weren't humanly possible, and they were actually the sounds of squealing pigs who were being taken to a slaughterhouse. And last but certainly not least, it is said the people who practice the religion of Zoroastrianism actually leave dead bodies up in towers so that vultures can consume their remains. To us it may seem a little strange, but to them it's actually a sign of respect. But when I die, please don't put my body in a tower so I can be eaten by vultures. It's just not my thing.
Alright, so squealing pigs getting slaughtered and vultures eating your body is a little bit intense, if I do say so myself. Like, is it really that serious that you gotta use squealing pigs? Just imagine the sound they made. Ew. That's scary, actually.
Scariest Places Part 28. This is the Huelma building, located in Sao Paulo, Brazil. From the outside, this just looks like any other skyscraper, but it has an unfortunate history. On February 1st, 1974, an air conditioning unit overheated and the building caught ablaze, with all the workers inside. As the fire grew, people did whatever they could to save their own lives, including jumping out of the windows. With no other choice, 13 people decided to try the elevator. The elevator went down a few floors, but then stopped working. They were stuck. In their final moments, the 13 joined arms as they awaited their inevitable death. 179 total people died in the fire. 4 years later, the building was rebuilt and remains an office building today. It's reportedly extremely haunted. Apparently, workers of the building hear screaming, footsteps, and can feel the heat of the fire.
Yo, that is so scary. It's almost like 9/11 when a lot of those people jumped out of the buildings. But the scariest part is when he said they got trapped in the elevator. Like, imagine trying to escape the fire and then the elevator is stuck and you just get burnt to death. Oh, that's tragic, man.
Miley Cyrus is stuck in a cult and needs help.
I'm scared for Miley Cyrus because the biggest conspiracy theory about her right now is that she's trapped in a cult. Yes, a cult. Did you notice she dropped the biggest song of the year, then disappeared? Did practically zero promotion for her album. Completely moved on to a new song, and the only promo she did for that was in a soundstage with her team, and the tweets were saying, "I love that Miley's new cult is letting her do promo for her new single." Turns out it's because Miley has allegedly joined the cult, the Modern Mystery School, and has been hanging out with people from this school, along with the leader, Gundani Gundison, which sounds like some Sesame Street made-up name. To get an idea of the Modern Mystery School, they're a cult that vigorously heals your past trauma to make you the most enlightened, best version of yourself. And on the cover of their website, it says, "You are not perfect the way you are." She's been seen and posting, hanging out with Lily and Blue, two light workers and healers from this cult since February 2023, and she's been seen chugging down Manipulation Station to their little cult gatherings. We know this is for the cult because on the website it always says know thyself. People think what this cult does is break you down completely to build you up into who they want to be. A lot of past members say that they experienced really horrible trauma, physical, financial, and sexual exploitation, and he instills major fear about impending doom or personal safety onto his members to keep them in line. Miley even said she never wants to tour again, and one of her reasons was because of the feeling of her personal safety being in jeopardy. Miley's fans fear she's susceptible because she definitely has trauma to exploit in recent times, saying that she's working through the trauma of being harshly judged in her 20s, and the major trauma going on right now with her famous split family. Before I say the craziest part, make sure you follow so you finally know the craziest conspiracy theories about all your favorite celebrities and request who you want to see next. Fans also think she's susceptible because she got involved with a cult figure after the Bangers era, Wayne Coyne. They did a lot of strange things together.
Don't forget to like and follow and stay weird.
At this point, I think every celebrity's in a cult, bro. All of them are doing all sorts of weird stuff in the background that we have no idea what's going on. That's just how it is when you're rich, famous, and have a lot of power, status, and know basically the whole industry. Just know a bunch of powerful people, the elites. What else would you be doing? Everything perfect? Probably not.
Here that's pictured behind me is the site of one of the strangest mysteries in the true crime world. This was the location of where 18-year-old Joshua Maddox was found. To give a bit of backstory about what makes this so strange is that Joshua went missing and his family never understood why. But this was in 2008, and the body was not discovered until 2015. The person who owns this abandoned cabin was going to demolish it when they knocked down the chimney, and that is where they found the body. Crammed inside, upside down in fetal position, were the skeletal remains of Joshua Maddox. By the way, if you're looking for a longer episode on this, we're probably going to cover it on Creep Time that you can always go listen to using the link that's right in my bio. What's so odd about the Joshua Maddox case is that the investigators ruled that this was some kind of an accident, that he had crawled down the chimney to break into this cabin for an unknown reason. There were several things with that story that didn't add up. One is to focus back on this chimney because the chimney had a grate on top of it, which would have made it impossible for someone of Joshua's size to get inside the chimney. Even stranger than that, Joshua was found inside the chimney wearing only his t-shirt. The rest of his clothing had been removed and was at the bottom of the fireplace. Something about that story just does not add up.
Yeah, that story was kind of strange. I feel like they need to do a little bit more investigation for that one.
I don't know why, but I've always been extremely uneasy at having this signal, we all know what this signal is, on your everyday objects. I've seen them on shower curtains, on carpets, on cups, on purses, t-shirts. I've even seen people with like tattoos on them. Whether there's a planchette involved or not, Ouija boards of any kind and on any surface are a bridgeway or a portal in between this life and the afterlife. Just being in the possession of one is already an invitation of having something around you that you may not necessarily want. Now, can you imagine carrying them on you on your everyday objects? Even if the intent is not there, it is still there because you're essentially still carrying this thing around. And walking around with this thing at all times, or even in your home, is essentially a beacon, letting all of these negative, really malicious things know that they can come to you in the event that they want to communicate.
Who would get a Ouija board tatted on their chest? If you know anyone with a Ouija board tatted on their chest, nah, you need to flame them. You need to tell them, like, get out of here. Like, what are you doing?
This whole alien UFO thing is getting really, really weird. Check out this latest sighting.
Bitch, what? Hey, what the fuck? What the fuck?
Ever since it was confirmed that aliens are real, we're getting more and more creepy sightings. A lot of people think that this is part of Project Bluebeam. Basically, that the government is going to use AI and holographics to stage a fake alien invasion, even cause destruction. And in the end, the government will swoop in and save us all and is hoping that everyone will unite and be like, yes, we love the government. That's basically what Project Bluebeam is, and it's terrifying. So let me know your thoughts in the comments below.
I'm not gonna lie, on first look, I was like, yo, is that the Avatar? Like the last Airbender when he got trapped in the iceberg, you know? I was like, yo, that looked like the Avatar. That'd be funny though.
You may need a nightlight after watching this. Airport security guard Francisco Hernandez was finishing up his shift one evening at a Mexico City airport when he heard strange noises coming from inside a plane that was supposed to be completely empty. Per his work protocol and airline regulations, he had to investigate the aircraft, and what he found inside sent him running for his life. Take a look.
Verga. ¿Qué fue eso? No mames.
An ominous, shadowy figure is seen peering around the corner at Francisco repeatedly, and when he finally sees it, he flees the plane in terror. Even more chilling, this was an area Francisco had just searched but was completely empty. Who or what is it? The goosebumps that video gives me. What are your thoughts?
I'm not gonna lie, Francisco did the right thing. He checked it before, there was no one there, and then it just kept playing the shadow figure just kept playing these games. Yeah, I would have left too. I'd have been like, nah, I'm not doing all that.
Okay, this is a very unsettling video. A lot of people are concerned about this woman, thinking that she's like a cyborg or like an alien or a reptilian. Check it out.
So I wanted to introduce into the record page 55 from the committee's interview. First, I wanted to introduce into the record page 55 from the committee's interview with FBI employee.
How does this woman know what she's gonna say word for word for word? Some fishy is going on and I don't like it. I'm gonna cover this case and more on my YouTube channel, so link in bio, subscribe.
This is why you should never record yourself sleeping. Back in 2015, this man Nigel became a single father, taking care of his baby all on his own. Now, for the first few months there was no problems, but then Nigel started finding it extremely hard to sleep, and not because of the baby. He started waking up randomly every single night at 3 in the morning, for no reason at all. Shortly after waking up every night, the baby would then start crying and he would have to go and check on it. Now this continued for an entire month. Now Nigel realised he needed to do something about this and find out what was going on, so he headed out to the shops one day. He decided he was going to buy a camera, which he then returned home and fitted in his bedroom, pointing towards the bed. It came to bedtime, he hit record on the camera and headed to sleep. Again, he woke up randomly at 3 AM. This time, the baby didn't cry, so he headed straight back to sleep, knowing that the camera was set up and would capture whatever was going on. The morning came and he went to check the camera footage. That's when he noticed a large shadowy figure standing in his corridor, right by his door. The figure just stood there for minutes, not moving a muscle. He then decided to check the baby monitor, which he wishes he never did. At 3 AM, he saw a figure standing over his child's bed. The figure was just standing there, staring over the cot and peering inside. He then realised the figure looked familiar, almost like his wife, who he had murdered 2 months earlier.
If he truly did hurt his wife, I really hope that was her just coming back to haunt him, because like, why are you doing that, man? The mother of your kids, come on.
This college dorm room is so haunted they had to permanently close it to students. This is Ohio University's room 428. The only known case where an American university sealed a dorm is room 428 in Wilson Hall at Ohio University. Students aren't allowed to so much as step foot inside that room, and for good reason. You gotta hear this. 428 is permanently closed due to the numerous reports of hauntings and dangerous paranormal activity in the room. It all started in the 1970s when a male student passed away in room 428 under mysterious circumstances, meaning no one could agree on what happened to this young man. And after that, things started getting really weird. Years later, a female student moved in and used the room's energy to practice rituals. Not long after moving in, she passed away mysteriously as well. And once again, no one could really agree on a reason why. And ever since the two, anyone who moved into the dorm reported terrifying occurrences at all hours of the day and night. Objects would fly across the room on their own accord. Students would hear disembodied voices, whispering, and even shouting, even though there was no one there. And even stranger, haunting faces kept appearing in the wood grain of the room's door. This happened over and over. The school even replaced the door many times, but the faces would always reappear. Eventually, it got to be too much. They were getting complaints and calls about this room all the time. And the university decided to seal the door shut forever. And this is the only known case where a dorm room has been sealed off in the United States. Mediums have found that this building is located at the center of 5 ancient cemeteries. And room 428 is some kind of a portal. This really reminds me of Dudleytown. Just one horrible event after another, and eventually they have to close it. What are your thoughts on room 428?
These are pictures that get worse the longer you look at them, part 2. Up first is this picture, and at first glance, it just looks like 3 friends at a wedding. But if you look closer, you will see something extremely disturbing. Look between the guy's legs in the middle, and you will see a disturbing ghostly little girl. This is super creepy, and imagine you see this after taking this photo. Next up is just a normal picture of a living room, right? That is until you look in the bottom left and you see a very disturbing face. The person who took this photo said nothing was there when they took it, and it only showed up after the photo was taken. What in the world is that thing? Next up is a picture of a truck that is completely packed to the brim. But if you look throughout the items, you will see something very weird. In the back of the truck, you can see the head of a little boy peeking out. Which raises the question, is this kid kidnapped? Next, take a look at this picture of this girl on her bed. Nothing out of the ordinary, right? But if you look to the right of her mattress, you can see the face of a guy looking out. I would immediately move out of my house if I took this photo. Finally is this picture. And promise me, the longer you look at this, the more disturbing it will get. So do me a favor right now and pause the video and let me know what you see in this photo. Because trust me, there's a lot to unpack.
Yeah, that last one I saw at least like 5 things. I'm like, what? I hope that girl that was on that bed checked under that bed after that picture was taken. I'd be like, yo, why is her face just right there? That's so strange.
Is time travel possible?
Well, according to physicists, time travel is possible. Yeah, it has been proven using technology, but it will not be possible for us humans to time travel because we will turn into mist with that flying and that speed to time travel. We need to travel faster than the speed of light, which I think our bodies cannot handle. But theoretically speaking, yes, it is possible.
What is your biggest fear in your life and why is your biggest fear?
That's funny because I think about that a lot. I'm like, yo, it's crazy how time travel is possible going towards the future. Like, we have a higher chance of time traveling towards the future than going back to the past. So that means everything that already happened, we can't change. But everything that's to come, we can kind of see what might happen, I guess.
Already know this video is going to show up at night for you. I don't care. You tell that there is something deeply wrong with this photo. It's discovered in a hidden lockbox after her grandfather had passed, and the woman who found it, Michaela Jerome, she thought the same thing that you did. There's something that's kind of off about this picture. Very quickly, if you're not already, make sure to go check out my podcast, The Scariest One You Know, Creep Time the Podcast. Can use the link in my bio. We're on Spotify and Apple. Well, the photo, she was almost sure, clearly showed the staircase of her family home, but she couldn't be sure about what this was in the center until she enhanced the photo. A hauntingly clear image of what appears to be a woman clawing her way up those stairs. She eventually turned in this photo for analysis with the police, and it took them 4 months, but they determined that this was more than likely a scenario of captivity. If her grandfather did take this picture, he had this woman in his possession. Still, nobody would even know who she was.
I feel like it's always the pictures or the videos of just like the girl from The Ring just crawling up the stairs. Like, why? Why is she just suddenly attacking everyone's basement, going up and down their stairs? Like, it's a little bit strange.
If you have this name, I'm sorry, but it's not looking good for you. If you know anyone with these first names, then make sure you share this video with them. Trust me. According to research which has been done by scientists and surveys which have been conducted, there are certain first names which attract different things. First name on this list being one which attracts the most paranormal activity. Now, knowing the names on these lists means you can be a bit more careful when you first meet someone. This is a girl's name and it's the name Emily. According to studies, this is a name which has the most recorded possessions, along with the positives of most likely being telepathic. If you think about it, there are so many films which involve the name Emily about paranormal activities or exorcism. Next up, and I really hope you don't know anyone with this name. This name is the most linked name to serial killers in the US and across Europe. This name is Harold. Finally, the complete opposite of the last one, in studies that have been done in the last 10 years, the most commonly appearing name of person to go missing or disappear is the name Jeremy.
Hey man, if you have any of those names, let me know down in the comments. Like, what? Emily? Yo, if your name is Emily, that means you have a high chance of getting possessed. That's crazy.
This home went from haunted to straight up demonic. It's believed to be the site of more than 17 portals to the other side. 17 doorways for the dead to enter our world. This is the infamously haunted and terrifying Belair house in Ohio. The Belair house has been the site of a mine explosion and unexplained deaths. One man who lived in the home decades ago went insane, claiming that the spirits inside the home were trying to kill him. He was later committed to an asylum, but continued to talk about the dark entities inside the Belair house for the rest of his days. Over the years, the house has seen a quick turnover of owners and renters. It seems no one can last inside for more than a couple months. The current owner of the Belair home got so desperate to get rid of it, she offered to sell it to the town for a mere $1, but the offer was rejected. The place is haunted, and everyone knows it. It's earned the reputation of being a hotbed of paranormal activity. Are you ready? Because the tales of the haunted Belair house are not for the faint of heart. It's about to get spooky. I'm Avery Ross, and this is Avery After Dark.
I'm gonna give you 3 seconds to try to guess what's happening in this video.
That was Albert saying hello.
It's gonna sound crazy, but people are saying that this light flickering is a desperate plea from a ghost. Let me explain. So this is the Halcyon House, and it's one of the most haunted houses in Washington, D.C. I talk about it in this week's episode, but this house used to be owned 120 years ago by a man named Albert. Albert went mad in the house and got into some really dark stuff. He thought if he ever stopped working on the house, he would die, so he hired a man to just continuously be working on the house. And he built whatever he could. He doubled the size of the house, he built stairways that went nowhere. There was even a door on the top floor that just opened out into the air. Albert was this huge collector, so he would buy Greek statues and mummies and just live in the house amongst his collection. Eventually, Albert does die, and when he does, he has some really strange final requests. He wants to be buried on the property, he wants a wooden stake driven through his heart, and he wants a promise that electricity will never be installed. But none of his requests were ever fulfilled, and now people say that this light flickers because it's Albert trying to turn off the electricity. Check out this week's episode for more spooky stories.
Damn, Albert's been at that for years. Wow. At some point, you gotta be like, as a ghost, when are you just gonna rest in peace? When are you just gonna chill and not try to do too much? Hopefully Albert can finally chill, because it's been years.
Hear a creepy unexplained story? My mom's first husband was a Navy pilot during the first Gulf War. Soon after he deployed, my mom didn't hear from him much, which was not unusual. 10 days after he left, she suddenly woke up in the middle of the night, looked in the corner of the room, and saw him standing there. He did not look like he was an apparition. He looked like a solid human being just standing there. Everything about him was exactly the same, except for the fact that his head was shaven. He only said one word, goodbye, and then disappeared. The whole experience startled her so much that she could not sleep for the rest of the night. The next morning, she woke up to a knock on her door, where she was then informed that her husband had passed away due to a massive heart attack. She pretty much assumed that her seeing him the night before was just a hallucination due to the fact that she missed her husband. Immediately, her mom and mother-in-law flew out to plan for the funeral and await for the body to be received. She stayed strong until the viewing of the body. When she saw her husband's lifeless body, he was bald. It was then explained to her by his NFO that the reason he had a bald head was due to a lost bet. There was absolutely no way that she could have had any prior knowledge to this.
So, was he bald before or after the death? That's weird.
If you don't want to have nightmares tonight, keep scrolling, because this is Earth's Scariest Places, part 66. This beautiful building is the Alimi Palace, located in the United Arab Emirates. It is one of the most mystifying and haunted places in the country. Let's dive in. This beautiful palace was originally built in 1980 by the Alimi family, which was the ruling family at the time. Its original purpose was to be a place of luxury. The family originally wanted to use it as a place to host extravagant parties and fundraisers and to host rich, wealthy guests. And if you look at the original interior, that fits the mold. But in the next few years, things started to go wrong. The family started noticing paranormal activity in the house. It was small things at first, like lights being flicked on and off and footsteps in the hallways, but eventually the residents started getting hurt and furniture started getting thrown around the room. At this point, the residents of the palace completely abandoned it. It stays the exact same way it was in the 1980s today. And today, it's a tourist attraction that you can go see for yourself. Visitors have reported some of these same paranormal activity that was reported back in the 80s, as well as apparitions and handprints and faces imprinted in the windows.
This is a true horrifying story, part 77. This story was submitted by a captain that works for Fly Dubai. Fly Dubai is not as fancy as Emirates Airlines, but it does take you to cities that Emirates Airlines does not. This happened in the year 2021. The captain had a layover flight from Dubai to Napoli, Italy. The airline company assigned an old hotel for the crew to stay in. After the flight arrived to Napoli, the captain walked inside the hotel. He noticed that the hotel was very old. It smelled very old. The corridors were tight, the ceilings were very low, and the wooden floors were squeaky. He goes inside his room for the first time, and he notices an antique painting of 4 women dressed in white. And there was another door that was locked that connects him to the room right next to his. He saw that the time was already too late and he was tired, so he decided to just fall asleep. But as he was falling asleep, the connecting room door starts to knock in a very creepy pattern. Minute by minute, these knocks get stronger and louder. He had enough. He calls the reception and complains about the guests that are staying in that room. But they inform him that it's impossible. Sir, you're the only guest that is staying on that floor specifically tonight. He is now concerned. He feels very cold because he knew exactly what this thing was. He manages to ignore the noise and he goes to sleep, but when he wakes up the next morning, he was astonished but also very scared because he looked at the painting and it only had 2 women in it that are dressed in white. He swore that he saw 4 women in the painting the previous night. He gets dressed and he goes downstairs to have breakfast with his colleagues, and he couldn't wait to tell them the creepy story of his whole night. He later finds out that every single crew member from his flight said the same thing. All of them have experienced paranormal activity in this hotel. None of the crew members felt safe to go back upstairs to their rooms, but he had to go. He went upstairs to write an official email complaint to the airline company. As he was going through his bag, knock, knock, knock. He turns his head towards the knocking noise. It came from behind the painting. He gasped and he couldn't breathe because he only saw 1 woman dressed in white.
Yo, I'd be freaked out. I would leave immediately. Oh my gosh. It's why nowadays, man, it's always good to go with a group of people, you know? It's never wrong just going with a group of people. When you go by yourself, anything crazy stuff happens, you're like, God damn, I'm stuck.
What happens right after you die?
Well, as you die, you see the angel of death approaching you, of course. And after you die, you will be temporarily conscious of your surroundings. Theoretically, I'm not sure of this, but this is what I have heard from people. But what I am sure of is in Islam, when they are washing your body before they bury you, you will hear the footsteps of the people that bury you. And after burial, you will hear them walking away. And after that, also confirmed, there you will be approached by 2 angels that are the most scariest beings you will ever see in your life. They are called Munkar wa Nakir, and you will be tested. They will ask you 3 questions. If you fail, you burn. If you pass, you go to Jannah.
I feel like a lot of angels are just looking scary. Like, there's the angels that we think look normal, then there's the angels that are actually absolutely scary. And apparently the actually scary ones are actual angels. The second I pick up that camera and I see that I'm out of that crib, bro. I'm selling the house. I'm never going back ever again. That was absolutely insane. Like, why? Like, who's just opening my window like that? Threw the latch off and just open. No, dude. It's gotta be something crazy.
Mysterious shapeshifters caught changing on camera.
I do not think Queen Elizabeth is a shapeshifter. R.I.P. the Queen. I forgot that she died, like, I think at 99 years old. It's a long time to live, dude. But I don't think she's a shapeshifter. I think that was just a glitch. Either that's a glitch on the camera or something health related. That's what I think. Do you guys think the Queen is a shapeshifter? Put your thoughts down in the comment video.
This was the final photo that they found on Todd Chernick's phone. Face value, it probably doesn't look like much. It's just a blurred, kind of dark photo of a school hallway at night. If you look a bit closer to the background on the right, you'll see that something is wrong. To explain a little bit more about who Todd was, he was actually a sophomore at Valley Brook High School. He left his laptop in his locker, and he did the thing that you're not supposed to do. He went back into the school after dark. The eerie part is that Todd did go missing. He never came back that night. When police investigate, they look at his most recent upload to his iCloud. The photo was this picture. Why would this be the last photo that Todd ever took on his phone before he went missing. In the background, there is somebody standing in one of the doorways, and we have no idea who this is. To this day, this person has not been identified.
Well, if it's the class after dark or school after dark, I'm guessing it might be janitor, but at the same time, it's like, could it realistically be a janitor though? Because like, why would they just be there after dark for so long?
I wanted to talk about some of the terrible things that have been found in children videos on YouTube. Elsa Gate is a thing that started in like 2016-ish. YouTube came out with YouTube Kids. YouTube was pushing those creators like that made kid-friendly content so hard because they wanted to get YouTube Kids to be like the #1 way parents show their kids like cartoons and stuff, right? One of the original creators on YouTube Kids one day had 500 million views in 24 hours. RPM is anywhere near the average RPM. If they were getting anywhere between $7 and $15 per 1,000 views, they are making millions of dollars. So what happened because of that, right? These small struggling content creators who have been trying
start posting on the
they
kids.
Started making kids content because it's like, okay, they're just giving away all this money. Let me jump over there and you know, maybe it's not the content I want to make. But then there were a couple of creators that were doing some really awful things. Videos that started off normal. After about 15 to 20 minutes though.
Yeah, that should be scary. I mean, did he say 500,000 or 500 million? He says 500,000 views. That's still pretty good. If he says 500 million views, that's absolutely insane. Like, I hope, like, I gotta go back and check to see what he says, but.
There has been another Llorona sighting. I feel that at this point, she's really just outdoing herself because the amount of sightings that have happened in the past couple months have been insane. Before I show you guys the video, I do want to give you a quick little backstory. This is coming from Romania. The person who sent the video wishes to remain anonymous, so we're gonna call her Mia. Mia was out in the woods with a bunch of her friends. They were having a get together, they had a campfire going, they had music, they were all just kind of drinking and hanging out. When out of nowhere, they heard what sounded like a woman scream, but this woman was screaming in intense pain. At first, they were confused because they're in the middle of nowhere, so they decided to shut the music off to see if they can still hear it, and they hear it even clearer this time. Everyone kind of looks around trying to figure out where it's coming from, but they can't figure it out. Mia says that they continue to hear this woman screaming for the remaining of the night, but the scream would come from like different directions, almost like she was moving around them. Now I want to show you guys the video. I'm gonna have to blur some of the people's faces for privacy reasons, but you guys can hear her. I don't know about you, but that sounded terrifying. And the fact that they still stayed out there for the remainder of the night is insane to me.
I'm not gonna lie, she is right. That is insane. The fact that they stayed, I'd have been like, nah, bro, let's get up and leave. Honestly, let's just go back to the crib. There's no point in even being out here.
This is a true horrifying story, part 76. This story took place in Dubai very recently. There's a group of young Emirati guys that contributed money to rent a villa in a community in Dubai. They pretty much wanted to co-rent a house so they can spend time together on the weekends. So they rented this villa. They were playing games, partying, doing wrong things, bringing girls over, you know, stuff like that. On a normal weekend, one of these guys named Ahmed started talking to a local girl recently. After a couple of tries, he finally convinces her to come over. Before she arrived, he tells his friends not to come upstairs as he would be in one of the bedrooms with this girl. When she arrived, he immediately takes her upstairs and locks the bedroom door. In 30 minutes exactly, all the guys downstairs hear drastic screaming coming from upstairs. They see Ahmed running down the stairs, completely naked with no clothes on, scared for his life. They ask him, "What is going on?" He stutters in fear, saying, "Get out of this house, all of you." They thought he was playing some sort of prank until they see the girl run down the stairs, also with no clothes on. She was screaming with a man's voice, telling Ahmed to come back. It wasn't her normal voice. It sounded raspy and very manly. They all run outside, and one of Ahmed's friends takes his pants off and gives it to Ahmed so he can cover up. They start running and knocking on neighbors' doors in panic because calling the police will not help the situation. Maybe because there was something inside the house they didn't want the police to see. There was an Emirati neighbor nearby that allowed them to stay in his home until they figured out a solution. As they explained the story to this neighbor, Ahmed sneaks outside and sees this girl completely dressed up in her clothes, conscious and not knowing what is going on. He yells at her from a distance, saying, "Stay away from me. Don't come any closer. I want nothing to do with you." She cries in pain, not knowing what she did. She asks him, "Why are you standing far from me?" He told her to leave. She cries and begs him to drop her home because she didn't even know where she was. This was a ashiq jinn that possessed this girl, and this jinn did not allow another man to do the dirty with her. If someone wanted to be a hero while these things were happening, something very bad could have happened and lives could have been taken.
This photo has a terrifying backstory. In 1991, Jared Negretti was 12 years old and he was on a Mormon scouting trip in California. The boys were hiking Mount San Gorgonio when all of a sudden Jared disappeared from the group. A huge search and rescue team was deployed, which is kind of hard on this mountain because it's so steep. At first it seemed like a total lost cause. There was no sign of Jared, but then later that night, one of the search and rescuers found his camera in a bush, and on it were a bunch of photos that Jared had taken while he was separated from the group. This was the last photo on that camera. For years, people have been trying to make sense of this photo. Does he look scared in it? There's a flash on it, so maybe it was taken at night. But this was the last thing that was ever found of the boy. He was never seen again after this.
That's actually really scary. I don't really think he looks scared. I was looking at him, I was like, he doesn't look scared. If anything, he looks kind of just like firm, you know what I'm saying? Like stoic, just like, yeah. Whatever happens, happens.
Normal looking photos that have a disturbing backstory. These pieces of yarn in a first grade classroom are the trajectories of the bullets fired by the Sandy Hook shooter in 2012, who killed 20 children and 6 adults. The reason that the angles are pointing downward is quite disturbing when you think about it. Dutch teenager Gary Slock and his mother Petra posted this photo to Facebook moments before their plane was shot down by Russians, killing all 298 people aboard. At first glance, it looks like this woman is resting peacefully, until you notice that that's a car roof twisted around her like bed sheets. She jumped from the top of the Empire State Building and happened to land in this very graceful, peaceful way. This is the last photo ever taken of 18-year-old Jolie Callan, who after this photo was taken, was shot twice in the head and pushed off of the cliff by her ex-boyfriend. While this may seem like a normal family photo, just below the wife is a rattlesnake about to strike her arm. She was bitten and survived, but the dog died. This photo shows a man and a woman on the 70s game show, The Dating Game. The man in this photo who won the date with the woman is Rodney Alcala, a famous serial killer. Cheryl Bradshaw, the woman, found him extremely creepy and after the camera stopped rolling, refused to go on a date with him, possibly saving her life.
It's weird because like that other, the last guy, like, she was probably like, wow, he's an attractive guy. She got a feel for his personality and was like, yeah, nah, I'm not rocking with this.
These are videos humans were never meant to see. Okay, the video I'm about to show you is from a movie that was made in 1996 called The Long Kiss Goodnight, completely predicting 9/11. And it's not like they're predicting it, they're literally saying what's going to happen in 5 years. Because keep in mind, this movie was made in 1996. This video is absolutely mind-blowing, and here it is.
1993. World Trade Center bombing, remember? During the trial, one of the bombers claimed the CIA had advanced knowledge. The diplomat who issued the terrorist visa was CIA. It's not unthinkable they paved the way for the bombing purely to justify a budget increase.
You're telling me that you're gonna fake some terrorist thing just to get some money out of Congress?
Well, unfortunately, Mr. Hennessy, I have no idea how to fake killing 4,000 people. So we're just gonna have to do it for real. Oh, blame it on the Muslims, naturally. Then I get my funding.
Is that what this is about? Operation Honeymoon.
That was a little bit too close. It said 4,000 people, like 3,800 people died in 9/11. Basically 4,000 people. It's kind of weird because I remember seeing something last night. It was like, the government can't really do anything unless they prepare the people for its reality. And I was like, yo, why is there so many things about 9/11? Like, there were so many predictions. It's so weird.
So we have 4 new stories from my weekly newsletter where I send out every Monday. Let's talk about this. This Wednesday, the House Committee is going to hear testimony from 3 witnesses. Testimony about UFOs, but it really comes down to if there's any evidence, images, pictures, or physical things that proves their claim. The second story is about the Meadow Man that was spotted on October 17, 1973. What makes this story really interesting is that the person who spotted the Meadow Man wasn't a regular person, it was the police chief. There's a lot of pictures floating around, but this is the one that's still on the internet, still not yet verified. The third story is that there is a source in space that is sending radio blasts towards Earth. In the article, it talks about how this has been happening since 1988 and has been sending these radio blasts every 20 minutes. There's a lot of theories, but it still requires a lot more research from scientists. Alright, so I left the best for last, right here. A resident from Kingsburg, California caught this image on a camera. So in the article, the person who caught this said, I thought it was a shooting star initially, and then I looked closer and it started zigging and zagging. Comment below, which one do you think is the most strangest story?
Nightmarish facts about your body that you probably shouldn't think about. The water you drink has probably been inside of someone or something else. Constipation can make you vomit poop. A teratoma is a rare type of tumor that can grow hair, teeth, bones, intestines, and more. There is a bloody skeleton living inside of you. Bone dust smells like Cool Ranch Doritos. This is what the MRI of a baby looks like. Holy shit. There's a condition known as fatal insomnia, where one day you can't go to sleep and eventually you die because of this lack of sleep. You know that moment when you're about to fall asleep and suddenly you flinch because you feel like you're falling? This is actually known as a hypnic jerk, and it alerts your body that you're dying, or at least thinks that you're dying. If you decapitate someone, their head will remain conscious for 15 to 20 seconds, which is long enough for them to realize what you did to them. Humans are bioluminescent, meaning that we glow in the dark, but our eyes are just too weak to see it.
That's scary. I feel like the cancer one was a little bit scary. I did not know that cancer tumors could grow teeth, and like how does that even happen? That's gotta have some strong regeneration abilities to grow teeth, bones, and like what?
I have another Ouija board story time. I highly suggest you put your AirPods on or headphones, whatever you have. I have no business filming this in my house, but the car was way too hot and I just couldn't bear it. This story was submitted by Maria. I went ahead and tagged her down below. So when Maria was about 12 years old, her and her sister used to play with a homemade Ouija board. Her main purpose of doing this was for her to connect with her grandfather who had passed away. Maria never got to meet him, so she thought what better way to get to know him than contacting him through a Ouija board. As time went on, the Ouija board became an obsession for Maria and her sister. For whatever reason, they could not stop playing with it. They just always felt the need to constantly be on the board. They soon realized that the person they had contacted was not her grandfather, that it was in fact a D word. They actually found out the name of this D word, which I'll put right here. Don't ever say this word out loud, trust me. He is known as one of the most controlling D words in like Ouija board history. But back to the story. One night, Maria and her sister were playing with the board and they had a picture of her grandfather, like right next to them. But out of nowhere, Maria felt a hand on her back. She quickly got excited and said, "We did it, we finally contacted Grandpa," not realizing that it was actually putting his hand on her back. Later that night, after Maria went to bed, she got woken up by this D word jumping on top of her and trying to like choke her. She woke up sweating and crying. She went and woke her sister up, and her sister did her best to try to calm her down. The very next day, Maria went to her grandmother's house and took the homemade Ouija board with her. As soon as she got to her grandmother's house, she dug a hole in the backyard and buried the Ouija board, hoping that that would be the end of it. But she was wrong. 1 week after she did this, her parents came home crying, telling her that the grandmother had passed away in her sleep due to a Maria was stunned when she heard the news and blamed herself because had she not wanted to contact her grandfather, none of this would have happened. They ended up laying her grandmother to rest and did not perform an autopsy due to the fact that she was already of age. I mean, she was 88 years old. Regardless of this, Maria states that her grandmother was extremely healthy for her age. After the funeral, Maria tried to kind of put it in the back of her head until she went to her grandmother's room and found the Ouija board she had buried in the backyard under her grandmother's bed.
Yeah, this is why I do not mess around with Ouija boards. I'm pretty sure one of the videos I posted already, it was showing a guy with a tatted Ouija board on his chest. I was like, what are you doing?
This video might be proof that reptilians do live among us.
Forces and protecting the population and minimizing civilian casualties have long been a cornerstone of the counterinsurgency doctrine. Civilian casualties have long been a cornerstone of the counterinsurgency doctrine.
She straight up just shapeshifted on live TV, folks! Maybe the lady on the plane was being real. If you want more video proof, then check out this video on my YouTube channel, link in bio.
Alright, I think it's time to stop this little, oh my god, they changed the eye shapes. They're definitely a demon. Like can we not? I don't know, like every time I feel like I've seen something where it's just like, oh, their eyes flutter or some eye glitch happens, everyone's like, oh my god, they're reptilian.
Have you ever wondered how accurate police sketches are? Well, this sketch was actually pulled from someone's subconscious during hypnotherapy, so let's find out. In 1960, 4 teens were camping in Finland, and the last thing that this guy remembers was falling asleep. When he woke up, he was in the hospital, and he learned that he and his friends were attached through the tent and that none of his friends had survived. The only thing was that teen, Nils Gustafsson, didn't remember a thing after falling asleep that night. And honestly, that caused a lot of people to think he was responsible for his friends' deaths. So Nils goes to hypnotherapy to see if he can recall anything from that night, and during hypnosis, he starts remembering a face. This is what he described to the hypnotherapist as the person who attacked him and his friends that night. And while this is happening, this man gets admitted to the hospital. He has splotches of red all over his clothes, and the nurses said it looked like he had been running through the woods. And I'm sure you probably see it, but this caused him to be the lead suspect. I cover the whole story this week on the podcast, which has so many twists and turns, including what this guy has to do with the story, so make sure you check it out.
I'm not gonna lie, police sketches are very accurate. Like, it's really crazy how good they could draw faces just off descriptions. That's actually a very good skill, I'm not gonna lie. Imagine if you could just draw someone's face based off of me being like, well, he had like this thing on his chin, it was just like really curved, I don't even know what it is, and you just perfectly
Detectives said they have never seen anything like this case. When Charles and Catherine Romer, a very wealthy couple from New York, checked into a Holiday Inn in Brunswick, Georgia in April 1980, everything was per usual. The couple had just spent their winter in Miami, Florida, as they did every year, and were on their way home to New York. Charles and Catherine had made this trip dozens of times. Typically, they would break up the long drive into about 4 days, stopping along the way. The couple always stuck to a routine, staying at this very same hotel every single trip back home. But this time, things would take a very dark turn. After checking into that hotel room in Georgia, the couple disappeared. They vanished, along with their car, a customized 1978 Lincoln Continental. Even worse, no one realized they were missing for days. By the time they did, no one had seen or heard from the Romers since they had checked into the hotel. Despite launching the largest search in the history of southern Georgia, not a single trace of the couple could be found. Detectives and the family theorized they'd been victims of a robbery gone wrong, a random crime, or had been followed by someone that they knew. Charles was a wealthy oil executive. Was this connected to his work? Possibly. But many of the clues and much of the evidence from the case directly contradicts this theory, as there was over $500,000 worth of Catherine's jewelry left untouched inside the hotel room. This case is one that has left authorities completely baffled for years, and is truly one of the most haunting and perplexing disappearances. What happened to the Romers after they checked into that hotel room? How do not one but 2 people disappear off the face of the planet? And are the nearby murders of another wealthy oil executive and his wife somehow connected to the Romers' disappearance? Or just a strange coincidence? This is Avery After Dark, and I'm your host, Avery Ross.
So I have another brujeria story time. This one has to do with an evil grandmother. The person who submitted this wants to remain anonymous. For the sake of the story, let's call her Mary. So growing up, Mary's grandmother was an evil woman. Mary never really considered her grandmother. Her dad used to work really hard and would give his mom, the grandmother, most of his paycheck. He would only end up with a little bit left for him. Once he met Mary's mom, that stopped because he now had a family to provide for. The evil grandmother obviously did not like this, and from that point forward, she would treat Mary's mom, Mary, and her siblings like crap. At the age of 52, Mary's father became ill. Due to his illness, he spent a really long time at the hospital. It got to the point that when Mary went to visit him, he didn't even recognize his own daughter. A short time later, her dad ended up actually passing away. Just when they're in the process of grieving the loss of her father, the evil witch grandmother calls Mary's mom and tells her that she needs to give her everything. The house, the cars, whatever money was left over. Mary's mother pretty much told her to F off, but the witch grandmother insisted that before he had passed, he had signed something stating that all his property and belongings would go to them in the event that he passed away. There's no way none of that is true, because by the time Mary's father passed away, he was no longer coherent, let alone even able to sign any papers or give anything away. Now fast forward to Mary's mom passing away. Once Mary's mom passed away, Mary ended up inheriting the home and everything else. This home was located in the middle of nowhere. Mary decided that she was just gonna clean it up and sell it and kind of move on with her life. I'm home now. So one Saturday, Mary was busy at the home packing it up, moving all of the things into her new home. As it started to get late, she had made her last trip to the moving truck and decided to call it a night. At about 9 p.m., she laid in bed when she realized that she had forgotten her charger that was inside of her car, parked right in front of the house near the locked gate. As she's making her way towards her car, about to step off the porch, she hears this loud screaming, screeching sound, so loud that it sounded like a half woman, half bird. Mary quickly turned around expecting to see like a humanoid looking thing standing there, but there was no one. She said it sounded like the screaming from the old woman in the movie called Drag Me to Hell. Mary was so scared that she started to walk backwards towards her car, trying to scan the whole area, making sure that she wasn't going crazy. But the fear, the utter fear, and then trembling and just chills that she couldn't explain were overcoming her whole body. She ended up locking herself in her car and just staying there trying to rationalize what just happened. After talking to her sister about it, they came to the conclusion that that was her witch grandmother, angry because she never got what she wanted.
I feel like it's a little bit childish on the grandmother's part. Like, come on, bro. You didn't get what you want. She did all that. Come on.
So Woodrow was driving his Ford truck on I-77 from Marietta, Ohio, heading to his home in Mineral Well, West Virginia. Woodrow was just your average person. He was a sewing machine salesman. He was leaving work and just heading home to relax, eventually coming to a complete stop. He was about 8 to 10 feet from the ship. He's on the highway by himself in the middle of the night. Poof. A door opens from the ship. He described this figure looking like a man, so the humanoid introduced himself as Ingrid Colt. I think that's how you pronounce it. He described himself as a searcher. Searcher for what? A person? A thing? A planet?
Hillary Clinton is one of the most disgusting human beings on the planet. Very much so. Always has been, always will be. I want to show who she is. She's worse than her husband. So a lot of people say that this was triggered by a YouTube video. This is her statement. I condemn in the strongest terms the attack on our mission in Benghazi today. The United States deplores any intentional effort to denigrate the religious beliefs of others. Our commitment to religious tolerance goes back to the very beginning of our nation. But let me be clear, there's never any justification for violence acts of this kind. So she's making an apology.
Yeah.
She's taken the side.
Oh, yeah?
This is the first time since 1979 that a U.S. ambassador was killed in the line of duty. The Benghazi attack had wide political consequences, accusing the Obama administration of intentionally misleading the public and stonewalling congressional investigators. Hillary Clinton, the Secretary of State at the time, for not doing enough to protect the diplomatic compound. And that's been an ongoing, thing ever since.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of politicians just be getting hated on. I mean, I wouldn't even say hated on, because if you don't fulfill the role that you're supposed to do, I can see how a lot of people could turn on you and be like, nah, get this guy out of here. But anyways, if you guys enjoyed the video, please get this to 500 likes. I know it says 80% of you guys aren't subscribed, so remember to subscribe. And if you do subscribe, you can also apply for that 10% discount on the chains down in the description. So like the video, subscribe. Thank you guys for watching. Catch y'all in the next one.